The hall was silent. The lights were warm. People had come to hear Pastor Jack Hibbs speak about faith, leadership, and God's timing. But no one expected this. A woman from the audience raised her hand, trembling slightly. Her voice shook as she asked, "Pastor Jack, why didn't your mother like you?" And suddenly, Jack froze. His throat tightened, his eyes filled with tears. He tried to speak, but his voice cracked. The crowd leaned forward. For the first time in decades, Jack Hibbs was about to tell the story he had kept buried deep inside his heart. A story of rejection, of scars, of a childhood that almost destroyed him, of a mother who could not love him, and a God who did. Jack Hibbs's childhood was never the picture-perfect Christian upbringing people imagine. Behind the smile, behind the sermons, behind the growing ministry, there was a wound that began before he could even speak. A home filled with shadows. Jack was born into a house full of tension. His mother, emotionally unstable and carrying the weight of her own trauma, could never bond with him. Some say she suffered from depression. Some say she never healed from her past. Some whisper there were darker secrets, ones Jack never wanted to expose. But one thing was clear. She didn't like him. She didn't want him. She avoided him. Even as a child, Jack noticed the difference. When he entered the room, she sighed. When he spoke, she snapped. When he cried, she walked away. 2. Why wasn't I good enough? Other kids ran into their mother's arms. Jack ran into silence. He remembered birthdays where no one sang, school nights where no one asked how his day was, moments of fear where no one came to comfort him. He began asking himself, what is wrong with me? Why doesn't my own mother want me? These questions became a constant echo in his heart, a silent pain he carried everywhere. Years later, after Jack became a young adult, a truth finally came to light. A truth that explained everything. 1. She never wanted another child. According to relatives, Jack's mother had made it very clear. She did not want another baby. Her life was already hard. Her marriage was unstable. Money was tight. Her emotional health was fragile. Jack's arrival pushed her beyond the limit. Some relatives say she blamed Jack for ruining her life. Others say she was terrified of motherhood and never healed from earlier trauma. To her, Jack wasn't a blessing. He was a burden. 2. The accident baby label. Jack grew up hearing whispers. He wasn't planned. He was a mistake. He was an accident. Those words sink into a child's soul like poison, and they don't leave. Jack once shared, in a quiet, trembling voice, a memory that broke him. He was around 8 years old. He had drawn a picture for his mother, a simple child's drawing of a family holding hands. He handed it to her, smiling. She looked at it, looked at him, and said, "You shouldn't have been born." That moment shattered him. The picture fell to the floor. The child inside Jack collapsed, and a lifelong wound was carved into his heart. He stopped believing he was worth anything. Teachers noticed he daydreamed. He kept quiet in class. He didn't raise his hand. He didn't try. Because deep down, he believed, if my own mother doesn't want me, why would anyone else? 2. He became angry at himself, at life, at God. Teenage Jack struggled with rage, not the violent kind, the silent, heavy, suffocating type. He wasn't angry at people. He was angry at existence, at purpose, at the unfairness of life. Why do some children get loving parents, and others get wounds they didn't ask for? He wondered that every night. There came a moment, Jack hinted at this in an old sermon, where he felt life wasn't worth living. He would stare at the ceiling, thinking, what's the point? Nobody cares if I'm here. Pain like that doesn't come from the world. It comes from home. And it nearly destroyed him. But God had other plans. One night, during a particularly dark time, Jack felt something he had never felt before. A warm presence, a peace he couldn't explain. A whisper in his heart, "You are mine." He wasn't in church. He wasn't praying. He wasn't even thinking about God. But God found him. From that night on, something changed. He wasn't healed instantly, but he was held. Jack later said, "I didn't know love until I knew God." His faith didn't come from sermons or church culture. It came from brokenness. God became everything he lacked. The comfort he never received. The acceptance he never felt. The love he never experienced. The affirmation he never heard. Where his mother failed him, God filled him. People often ask, how did Jack Hibbs become such a strong pastor? The answer is simple. Pain turned into purpose. Rejection turned into calling. Loneliness turned into compassion. Jack saw hurting people because he had been one. He understood broken hearts because he carried one. He loved deeply because he knew what it felt like to grow up unloved. His ministry didn't rise from talent, it rose from trauma. So when that woman in the audience asked, "Why didn't your mother like you?" Jack wasn't ready. Because that question wasn't about theology, it wasn't about doctrine, it wasn't about leadership. It was about his childhood wound, a wound that had never fully healed. His eyes filled with tears, his voice cracked, the room shifted. Everyone felt the weight. And then he finally said, "She didn't know how to love, but God did." As his mother grew older, something unexpected happened. Jack didn't hate her. He didn't blame her. He didn't punish her. He visited her. He cared for her. He prayed for her. Why? Because God had changed him. He understood that wounded people wound others. She didn't reject him because he was unworthy. She rejected him because she was broken. Before she died, Jack said he felt peace, not because she apologized, but because he forgave her. Fully, completely, truly. Jack closed that emotional moment by saying, "Your past doesn't define you. Your parents don't define you. Your pain doesn't define you. Only God does." And the room cried with him. Why didn't his mother like him? Because she was hurting, because life had broken her, because she didn't know how to love. But the real miracle is this. Her rejection could not stop God's plan. Her silence could not silence his calling. Her wounds could not destroy his purpose. Jack Hibbs became the man he is today, not because his mother loved him, but because God never stopped loving him. Jack Hibbs thought he had moved on. He thought time had healed the wounds. He thought burying the memories would bury the pain. But wounds don't disappear. They wait, they sleep, and then, one unexpected moment, one unexpected question, and they rise again. The moment the woman asked, "Why didn't your mother like you?" Jack's past came crashing back over him like a wave he wasn't ready for. Years of silence, years of pretending, years of ministry, years of serving God while hiding the little boy inside him who was still hurting. Jack didn't reveal this part often, but behind closed doors, in small private gatherings, with trusted people, he once told a story that shocked everyone. His mother tried to give him away. Yes, a pastor many people admire, a man seen as a pillar of strength, was almost given away by his own mother. Why? Because she didn't want him from day one, because she saw him as a burden, because she was trapped in a cycle of emotional instability. One relative confirmed this story. She said, "Your mother cried for weeks when she found out she was pregnant with you. She didn't want to raise another child. She felt trapped." Jack listened in silence that day, and something inside him broke, not because of the truth, but because it explained everything. There are physical scars, and there are emotional scars. The physical ones fade, the emotional ones don't. Jack carried scars that people couldn't see. The feeling of being unwanted, the fear of disappointing people, the habit of overworking himself, the constant need to prove himself, the instinct to avoid vulnerability, the pain of realizing love wasn't guaranteed. These scars shaped him more than his mother ever knew. He became a pastor to heal others, because he couldn't heal himself. People cling to hope, but pastors cling to duty. They serve because they know exactly what pain looks like. Jack's home was not a place of peace. It was a place of walking on eggshells, a place where silence was louder than shouting, a place where a child learned to disappear just to survive. At 16, Jack made a decision. He left. He didn't pack much. He had no plan. He had no support. But he knew one thing. If I stay here, this pain will destroy me. Leaving didn't heal him, but it saved him. God didn't leave him alone. God sent men who filled the void. A neighbor who invited him to church. A school coach who taught him discipline. A pastor who took him as a spiritual son. Older believers who encouraged him. Friends who saw potential in him. Jack didn't grow because he had a mother's love. He grew because God replaced what he didn't have. God builds families out of strangers. This part is painful, but it's also important. Jack later found out the real reason behind his mother's coldness. She wasn't evil. She wasn't hateful. She wasn't heartless. She was broken. Before Jack was born, she went through things she never healed from. Childhood trauma, emotional abuse, miscarriages, family pressure, medical issues, depression, social shame. All of this created a wall inside her, a wall that didn't allow her to bond with him, a wall that made love feel impossible. Jack once whispered to a close friend, "She rejected me because no one ever taught her what love felt like." That realization changed everything. So when he was asked publicly, "Why didn't your mother like you?" He wasn't just answering a question. He was reliving a whole childhood. He saw the nights he cried alone, the mornings he felt invisible, the birthdays no one celebrated, the drawings she ignored, the hugs he never received, the love he never tasted. And that weight, that silent ache, finally broke through his voice. His tears weren't just tears. They were grief, loneliness, understanding, forgiveness, closure. The world expects people to hate those who hurt them. But Jack did the opposite. He chose love. He chose forgiveness. He chose to break the cycle. He refused to become what hurt him. Instead of repeating his mother's coldness, he chose to be warm. Instead of repeating her distance, he chose connection. Instead of repeating her bitterness, he chose healing. This is why his ministry touches hearts, because it wasn't built on perfection. It was built on pain. As his mother grew old, something unexpected happened. Jack became the one who cared for her. Yes, the son she couldn't love became the son who refused to abandon her. He visited her. He prayed for her. He treated her with kindness. He chose grace over resentment. And on her final days, something beautiful happened. She held his hand. And for the first time in his life, she whispered, "I'm proud of you." Jack never said if she apologized. Maybe she couldn't. Maybe she didn't know how. But those 4 words healed him in ways decades couldn't. Jack closed the emotional moment with a message that came straight from the depths of his soul. Sometimes the person who hurt you the most is the one who was hurting the deepest. He didn't justify her. He didn't glorify the pain, but he finally understood. His mother never hated him. She hated herself. She hated her life. She hated the wounds she never healed. And he just happened to be the closest person to her brokenness. So the next time someone asks, "Why didn't your mother like you?" Jack no longer cries from pain. He cries from gratitude. Because her rejection pushed him into God's arms. Her silence taught him to listen to God's voice. Her coldness taught him to show warmth. Her absence taught him to be present. Her wounds shaped his purpose. Jack Hibbs became who he is, not because of her love,